Jeremy, we had a little difficulty getting started. Jordan is normally the one that has challenges with showing up at the start of a meeting, but it was me today. So Jordan has already told me that we're not going to let this one's not going to be forgotten. He's going to use
Right.
this with memory bank. So I was late. We've rescheduled this. We're recording this. This is TZE. Welcome to the episode 15, I believe, is what we're on. It's we've done 15 of these this year, and TZE, for those that are joining us for the first time, stands for the Zion Experience, and we get on with industry leaders, we get on with partners, we get on with fun conversations, and we just sit and talk and have a conversation, and that's what today's going to be about. So we're heading in. This will be published a little after Thanksgiving, but we're heading into Thanksgiving this week. And we're very grateful for where we're at this year. And one of the reasons we're grateful, we've got on the phone or on the video with us is David Quintilio, who I've known now for, Q, I'm going to have to go back. We've known each other probably a solid 10 years. And we first met at UPS Supply Chain Solutions. We did not know each other. So Q had come in and joined, had a finance background. I'll let Q give us his full bio of how many years he spent at UPS, but it was several more than me. I think I spent about half the years he spent there, and I had 17. And he had a very illustrious career at UPS. UPS Supply Chain Solutions was one of you run across people in your life that you just have immediate respect for. And I think, I don't want to speak for Q, but I had immediate respect for Q, other than some of the shoes he was wearing. I had to educate him a little bit on the shoes that he would wear out in the warehouse, but we crossed paths at UPS Healthcare. He was a big proponent of what UPS Healthcare has turned into. Just a good person, good family man, lives in Georgia, is on Act maybe 2 or 3 now with Leverage Supply Chain Group. So he's the president and co-founder of Leverage Supply Chain Group, and I'll let him explain what that is. But we're grateful on Thanksgiving week to record this and to have you on the call with us. He also sits on Zion's external advisory board. So he's a friend, he's a partner, he's somebody you can look up to, just an all-around good guy. So we're glad to have him on the show. Sorry I was late, Q. I call him Q, David Quintilio, but sorry I was late. We are going to get him some swag. He let me know he did not have a hat to wear, so he was we're validating that he didn't receive this swag, but with the real boss of Leverage Supply Chain Group, Tammy. But we're going to get him some swag. So next time you see me, I've never seen you in a hat, so we're gonna test that theory out. But
yeah, I would definitely have worn it to cut the glare off of my forehead, but Jordan took his off, so it made me feel better. You turned yours around, so that's good.
We've got a little baloney patch going on me, and I'm getting a little thin on top.
Well, the camera makes it worse than it really is. So
I blame it on lighting a lot of times. I think it's poor lighting instead of poor hair. But yeah. Well, Q, why don't we get started? I tried to give a little bit of your background, your bio, but we just one of the first things is just, why don't you let the audience know who David Quintilio is, and just tell us a little bit about yourself, maybe your career at UPS, and spent several years there, and just tell us a little bit about you, your story, where you're at, and we'll just cut it up with some other questions.
Yeah, for sure. I think the first thing is, Jimmy, I think we're a little older than you said. Things tend to run on a little further than we remember now. It's probably been 15, 20 that we've known each other. And then there was a time that you were doing your thing and I was doing my thing. And but as you said, when you've got mutual respect for somebody and you connect with them, it doesn't matter the time frame that you were apart. It just picks right back up, and that's what's happened with us. So it's good people. You connect with good people, and you always have that bond. So appreciate you having me on the TZE. I will give you a quick background. It's some of the similar stories as a start out for a lot of people that were at UPS for the length of time I was, which was 36 years. I was going to school at North Carolina State University, actually getting an accounting degree, and then I ended up in operations. So we'll figure that out at some point. But while I was going to school there, I started when I was 19 and operations, and then went into their finance and accounting when I graduated, and got an MBA from Georgia State later in finance, and then eventually said, I want to rotate out of this finance and accounting role. And that was the good thing about UPS. You can have multiple careers within one company. And that's what a lot of people get is they start out in one function or even, in operations, which I started out in, and then rotate throughout the different areas. So you get to run F&A and be a country controller for Canada, or part of the going public with UPS. I was part of that team when we took it public. So you get a ton of different exposure, and that leads you, I think, more well-rounded when you go out and venture into another business, whether it's your own or whether it's a startup that you may be coaching, which I take on now as executive advisory work. But having sales, marketing, operations, finance, technology, having that exposure and being part of the team and leading the teams in those areas gets you well-rounded. So that 36 years, I ended up as senior vice president for the UPS healthcare supply chain area, and had global operations when we started that up in the middle of the pandemic. We started it in January of 20, and you know how that went. Pretty quickly into trying to find space for all the equipment that was needed, and then going into vaccine storage, shipping. So it was a busy time. It was a fun time from a work aspect. Obviously, it wasn't fun from a personal side for everybody at that time, but certainly it was gratifying. I think it's probably a better word to be able to help and be part of it then. So then I retired at the end of 2021 and started Leverage Supply Chain Group. As you mentioned, I live in Georgia. My wife, Tammy, as you said, really runs Leverage Supply Chain Group and everything else. And my son Dylan's a pitcher at Oglethorpe University. He's a sophomore now, and my wonderful companion JT is a flat-coated retriever. So that's our household, and run by a wonderful wife, Tammy.
How long have Tammy and you been together, Q? How much of the UPS, was she along for the entirety of it, or?
She was along for about half of it. Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
So we're going on 23. Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, one of the things people may or may not know about UPS, one of the big items of the awesome background, by the way, just anybody that works that long at one company is it's commendable. And I think you hit it right, is you can do that at a company like UPS because you can have several different acts. You can work almost in different business units. They've got the small pack, and you can rotate through different operations. You can work in finance, and you get such a wealth of experience and just get to work with so many different facets of a business. Small package is totally different than supply chain, and supply chain was really built from the ground up and through acquisitions and different mergers, and it's never a dull day. But one of the things people may not know, not unless you're a UPS or somebody Brown that we talk about, is relocation's a big part of that culture as well. So where, like, how many relocations did you, I'm assuming you did at least one. How many relocations did your career take you through? And what was that experience like?
Yeah, it's, I did a lot less than a lot of other folks. I did 3 relocations. And I was in Canada for 2 years up there as the country controller, and that's when I switched back into operations when I left there after we acquired Livingston Healthcare, and I really got embedded in the healthcare operations and came back and took over North American operations. So yeah, you're right. It's definitely a culture there. It's not for everybody, I'm sure, but it gave me a good solid background to start my second career for sure.
Yeah. I've always described UPS as they got a lot of good out of me. I gave them 17 good years, and I got a lot of good out of them. It wasn't always easy, but you knew what you were going to get with UPS. They're conservative. I won't say to a fault, but they're solid business people. They've got, little too many hands in decision making sometimes, but they don't make bad decisions as a result of that. And it's a big ship with a small rudder, and it takes a long time to turn it. And they've been in business for 100 and I guess it was 1907. I'm thinking if my memory's right. So what's that put them at? 116 years.
Yep.
And just a pretty fascinating story how they've evolved over time, and they're continuing to evolve. They've announced last week, Jordan, I think if you saw it, and Q, I don't know if you saw it or not, but in our time at Supply Chain Solutions, we were always talking about building the multi-client center. How could you plug and play multi-client customers into a fully automated or more, a highly automated facility? And they've done that in one of their facilities in near Louisville. It's their Velocity facility. And so shout out to Chip Steffi, Eddie Sissel, Jason Vaughn, Tim Boyd, several. I'm sure I missed some people, but they brought to life a really, really awesome facility there. And it's not easy to do it in the world that we're in, but UPS spent a lot of good years there. And
there's some solid people there that you mentioned that do an awesome job. So good luck to them on that venture. I'm sure it'll be successful.
Yeah. What's before we leave the UPS world? What's do we have a favorite memory, or favorite story? What was the most exciting thing you did at UPS that you can recall?
Well, what popped into my head today, getting on this call, was walking through the warehouse and coming upon a young Jim Shaw and looking down at his attire and seeing the cowboy boots for the first time. And I thought, okay, you need protective footwear. I had not seen the boots come out in the warehouse as of that time. So from then on, I called him Jimmy Boots. So me and Dave McLean, who was running operations as well at the time, we loved calling and chatting with Jimmy Boots or see him whenever we could. So that was I don't think I've seen anybody since with the cowboy boots in the warehouse.
So Jordan Jordan can't appreciate this as much, but believe it or not, there was a dress code of what shoes you could have and couldn't have. And one of the criteria was for management at the time, they had to be able to be polished. And I may or may not have skirted the policy just a little bit with the boots. But
it's touch and go.
Yeah.
Well, they're still here today. I don't know that I've seen Jimmy. I've heard stories of Jimmy outside of the cowboy boots, but I don't know that I've actually seen. Maybe one time I saw you in a pair of tennis shoes, and that's been about it. So that's stuck with you, I guess, your entire career.
It stayed with me. Yeah. I was on small package. The team that was there called me Sprout. So I had a lady that for some reason, I thought growing my hair out and having a perm when I was 20, 21 years old seemed like a good idea. And I had a group of ladies in the industrial engineering group that I joined. And one of the ladies' sons was going to school. And so she kind of mothered me, and they all kind of mother henned me, and they brought me in, and I had this hair and curly, and it looked like the little Sprout off the Green Giant. So I was everybody at small pack 20 plus. I'm dating myself, 1999. So back then, if I see them today or call them, every one of them knows me as Sprout. And then pretty much the healthcare side knows me as Boots. So it stuck with me, Jordan. And I remember that. I remember looking down. I think there were some Italian loafers. So Q's got some pretty good taste in clothes. And I think he had some Italian boots on. And he asked me, if my memory's right, he asked me why I wore something like this. And I said, well, I've got to deal with these operators who worked for him at the time, and said, sometimes you need a boot to get a point across. And so there he's like, okay, as you met Q now, he's like, not a lot of emotion, one a big range of emotion there. And he's like, okay. And then we all kind of had an understanding from that point on that we had a mutual respect. But we did a lot of good. That was the early days of healthcare, and UPS, what they've turned healthcare in today is pretty phenomenal from where it started. And a lot of growth, a lot of good stuff. We were writing a book of what you do. And Jordan, you've been in some of those facilities, 1920 and 1860, and some of the first people that started that. Felix Chang, who's still there, he's over healthcare now, more of an engineer. I think he's got operations. And yep. Rich Shaver, all the guys. I don't know, none of them probably watch this show, but Warren Osen, Nikki's there, Dave McLean, Joe Edwards. You think about some Jackie. What was Jackie's last name?
Jackie Kiefer and
Kiefer. Yeah.
Craig Chisholm.
Yeah.
Kim Kohler, Jen Trong, Bill White. Yeah, you got a ton of quality people. And that's the thing. You met so many people that either are still there or have come and gone that maintain contact with and consider friends, and also you can bounce ideas off of or potentially come work together like we've got here at Leverage Supply Chain Group.
That's right. And those were two. I'm going to turn the page on UPS. There's two things I always look back on fondly, UPS. Two main things is, one is just the different experiences that I got in a short window of time. You get almost like business acumen on, just on a fast track. You get to meet, and at least the supply chain side, we got to work with so many different accounts, customers, growing a business from the ground up. And then the second thing was all the people. I always told everybody it wasn't hard for me. I think I shocked some people when I left UPS. It wasn't hard for me to leave UPS. The hardest thing I left there was the people and just the relationships. And just to this day, I'm still friends and consider them friends, personal friends and business friends. And just a lot of really good people there that are still there. Some have moved on. Some have retired. Some are on Chapter 2, Act 2. But I think it's a good transition point. So Leverage Supply Chain Group. And when you retired, I think you stayed retired did you last 30 days? Or tell us the story. It
was actually 17 minutes. We calculated it.
Yep. Mm-hmm. 17 minutes. Those are 17 good minutes, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, they were solid. Yeah. Decompressed.
Right.
Ready to go.
That's all you need.
Well, tell us the story of it. So we started Zion in 2022. One of the first conversations I had is I don't even remember why we reconnected, Q, but for some reason we reconnected. And you and I shared, you were starting Leverage Supply Chain Group. Jordan, Chuck, Drew, and myself were starting Zion Solutions Group. And we talked. I think we both brought our UPS side out a little bit. We've had a scheduled meeting every other week. It may have been weekly at that time, that we just needed a little structure in our life. So we would talk every week, even if it was just to say hi, what's going on. And that's how this relationship started. But tell us about Leverage Supply Chain Group.
Yeah, for sure. I was talking to Drew quite a bit, seeing if we could work together on some projects, and then obviously reconnected with you, and then got to meet Jordan and Chuck down the road. So yeah, this relationship's just kept on flourishing. But the actual Leverage Supply Chain Group was initially, I was just helping some former clients with their internal supply chain work, gaps that they found in their services, or opening up new supply chains, spinning off from larger companies, all of that type work. And at the same time, I started doing some executive advisory work and met a couple of folks, one being you, Mansour Khan at CS, the folks at Cargo, Justin Stevens, and really enjoyed the fact that it's something new and it's something that they need help with. And at the time when I was retired for that 17 minutes, you go through withdrawals. I tell you, retiring is tough. It's hard to just stop after going 100 miles an hour. You can't go to zero. It just doesn't work. At least it didn't for me. And the more that you're into a routine of helping people, addressing problems, and then not having that, that's a big difference, a big change in anybody's life. And my brain, my desire to work with a team, it just kept festering there, that to a point where I started bringing folks on to help. Mike Borgeson, my partner, came on to help with these startup companies, especially. We found that they're so busy creating their services, their products, that they didn't really have a go-to-market strategy or outlet. So we have become channel partners for 6 organizations now, where we work with clients to fill the gaps in their supply chain that we help them identify. So we'll be engaged with a client on kind of a normal supply chain offering, and myself, Mike, and now we have 7 other people. We try to address those gaps and fill them where we can, but where we can't, for example, we don't have robotics integration expertise and partners. So that's where, we have somebody we can call. So we want to really close those gaps for our customers with ourselves and our channel partners. And so we're trying to plug those major gaps. Technology with CSCS, from a WMS, TMS, OMS, and then of course Zion with anything to do from a physical integration, robotics, advanced sortation, anything along those lines we can close. And then we've got some other things, whether it's computer vision technology for loads coming in and out. And then just bringing on a couple more. We've got a new 3PL offering that you'll see come out that really we can help our clients globally now fill any of the gaps that they have. So that's how it kind of evolved, is out of restlessness, and then just getting that excitement back and talking to folks like Zion and our other channel partners, and where they're at with growing the business. And being part of that has really, created that leverage supply chain group you see today, is helping those partners that we partner with, and as well as our clients, and bringing that entire ecosystem of gap filling supply chain partners and services.
It's pretty awesome. I like the name leverage, because I think in this, just when you were putting your company together, you had some thoughts on why leverage, and it's your philosophy is, how do you take the subject matter expertise that a lot of us have, those, and then you're filling voids, you're filling those gaps with expertise as well. But what you're doing, to me, leverage supply chain group is leveraging relationships, best in class gaps, where you've got Mansour and his team is phenomenal. The Cargo team has a really cool technology. I'm pretty partial to the Zion Solutions group. I think we can solve some pretty decent problems, but you're leveraging the best of what this industry has to offer, which is really expertise, creativity, and then relationships. So much gets done on relationship side. And I think that's really cool about Leverage Supply Chain Group. So Leverage is in Georgia. The team's in Georgia. You all's office space, and you said you've got 7 people now. Yeah. Talk a little bit about your people. Who else have we brought on besides Borgeson, and who's helping us out? And
Yeah, we've
I think
got
that's a pretty cool story too.
Yeah, Dave McLean's helping us out as well. Rich Shaver signed on for some time, and so we've got a few of the UPS experienced people, but we also wanted to broaden the horizon and perspective. So we've got a couple folks, Luis Perez and Mark Slobum, that were at some pretty significant healthcare organizations and 3PLs. So former customers of mine when I was at UPS. And so they've signed on to help our clients. And it's grown from there. We've added a couple of direct channel partner salespeople. So that's been phenomenal. So we'll continue to grow as needed. But one thing that we have that I tell all the folks that come on is we are now operating under discretionary philosophy, whereby we work. It's discretionary of who we work with, from a people part of Leverage, but a partner and a client perspective as well. So really, as you mentioned before, is connecting with people and understanding their organization, their culture, their philosophy before we take them on as a partner or before we take them on as part of Leverage has been huge. And so, you guys and Mansour share our philosophy of giving back and doing a lot with the community, and not just obviously it's for-profit business, but also giving back at the same time. And the way that you all treat people, whether it's people at Zion or whether it's customers, that's that makes a difference. We've turned down potential partners or potential people just based on that fact that it's got to be something that we first think fills a gap. 2 is the right organization and right people to fill the gap. So that's been good as part of our culture here, and certainly Zion and CSCS and Cargo share that same culture.
Yeah, I think it's, one of the things we aligned on. Of course, we've always you just get along with certain people and you're wired like certain people. And I think we've always had that mutual respect. We were at different points in our career, obviously, when we first met, but I think there's always been the respect, but it comes back to even organizationally now, as you've created Leverage Supply Chain Group. I think as humans, we complicate things. It really can be as simple as business is bigger than financial statements to me. And the philosophy is that I've kind of stolen from Whole Foods. I think their founder said this is, if you take care of your people, they'll take care of your partners. And I've modified this a little bit, but ultimately they take care of the customer, and then the financials will take care of themselves. And it sounds too simplistic, but I think when you build the culture and that's your foundation and that's embedded in your values that you demand of the people that work with you, of yourself to start with, as founders, right? We set the pace. What our words can be our words, but our actions have to match our words. But when you have good people, that translates in, we've got to have good partners like you, or else we don't have anything to go to market with based on our business model. And then you go after and you desire the good customer that fits that. And then the rest of it kind of falls in line and takes care of itself. And that's been refreshing as we've rebooted and started Zion. I don't know where we'll be in 10 years, but my hope is that we still have a similar philosophy, that we got good people, good partners, and we're helping good customers. Doesn't mean that everything's rosy. I think sometimes people get the rose-colored glasses and they think that business is tough. It's always going to be tough. Doesn't mean you're not going to disagree with your people sometimes, your leadership, your partners. But I think it's about having mutual respect. And I told somebody this last week. It's like a lot of people want to call your business family. And I don't think it's like blood family, but I think the same virtues and values that you treat and respect your family with, your blood family, you can treat your work family and your customer family and your partner family with. I think you can have the same virtues of having a common respect. You can have a common intentionality of how you think. They're always, always give the benefit of the doubt instead of filling voids with they're out to get something or to do the wrong thing. Because I think at the core, all humans want to work with other humans they enjoy working with. And that's a real good day when you can align that and you can make some money at it and you can build something cool with it. And ultimately, like you said, giving back. One of the big things you heard last week in our board meeting, we've been very focused and intentional on our Acts of Kindness foundation. And man, we've got big hopes for the future for that. And we're involving the board with that this year. We wanted to say thank you for all that you and the other 6 board members have done. And you never know when call it 2 things. You never know when there's an invisible thread in life that gets pulled through because of that, or you never know when that small ripple turns into this big effect and you've thrown that little small ripple into the world and where it ultimately lands and goes. And, if I look back when I'm ready to say it's a career, when I'm ready to call it a day. And, I think I'll value that. I hope I look at that and say the people I worked with, that's what I valued, the experiences I was part of at UPS. And then ultimately you feel like you do some good in the world and you've left the world a better place for your children, the people you get to interact with, and just in general. So,
yeah, no, for sure. And that's why I'm still doing what I'm doing is because I've got the same philosophy that you do, that hey, I think we can make a difference here. I think we can make a difference for the people in leverage. I think we can make a big difference for our clients. I think we can make a difference for the channel partners. And I think you're right. We get to do things in the community that brings us all together as well. And you mentioned handing out charitable donations to the board members. I thought that was phenomenal. And my only question is, I'm going to narrow it down because we've been working with a couple different organizations. That once you get out there and work with, you find out really the needs and how fortunate we all are. So that will go a long way. So I certainly appreciate that, and so does the community.
Yeah. It's like when you got a big heart, you see all the needs in the world. How do you narrow it down to how you can't help everybody, but you certainly can pick a few, and our plans to go deep with a few and just how do we make a big impact and then spread as much of it as we can through the local communities and just do good. And I think if you give with the intention of it's authentic and genuine, let God take care of the rest. Let the story be written the way the story's supposed to be written. And that's what we're going to try to do. So let's turn back. I got a little deep on the value side, but I think that's why we're on the call today, is ultimately from a partnership, you have to be of similar mind and set. And that's why you and I we found each other and we're working together, and the team you're surrounding yourself with, and then the external partners, we can all get in a room and we're all of one. We all do different things in the industry, but it's just good people in the room, which is exciting. If I turn the corner a little bit and talk about executive advisory, so you're filling that capacity in for several organizations. What's as it relates, maybe let's be a little selfish on Zion. So you've sat on our board for almost 2 years. What would you tell the world about sitting in that capacity and the value it's brought you, hopefully, or the value that you bring to a board like that?
Yeah, well, Certainly, I don't have a Zion hat's first thing I got to call out since Jordan came back on with the hat. So I'll expect that to come pretty
I'll
soon.
turn mine around so you can see the full of what you're going to get someday.
Yeah, someday I hope to.
Yeah.
What I get out of being an executive advisor, kind of what I said before, is just love the fresh perspective of folks just starting out in their business, whether it's a startup or whether they've moved from another large organization like the CSCS folks did to start their own business. Their excitement, enthusiasm just keeps us motivated. And the same with Zion, watching that form, over the past year and a half has been phenomenal. And just proud of you guys and seeing the things that you're able to do now that the business is up, running, and doing very well. To be a part of that really keeps me engaged. And I think the experience of working with and really running supply chains for hundreds of large organizations, because when you have the supply chain operations, you really are their arm and running their supply chain. So not only the numerous large healthcare organizations, small med device to large pharma, but also the retail experience in the past and watching those things ebb and flow with e-commerce. So being there on the front lines of seeing that from the customer's perspective and kind of sitting at their board table as their supply chain arm, and then watching us execute their supply chain and the gaps that we would find, the holes in the supply chain. Not only from a 3PL warehousing side, but they're managing their transportation as well. And having that experience, and as we talked about, the multiple functional roles just gives you a breadth of perspective that I think can help avoid some of the pitfalls as you're advising companies in the supply chain world. There's so many that touch it, from technology, as you guys are, but you think about start to finish. There's so many components in a supply chain that are all interrelated and connected, but there's gaps in that chain. So those weak links, helping spot those while you're working with the companies, so that you can fortify those links and you don't have a breakage is the value added. But being part of a board as well, you get to hear from others that have a different experience, background, and perspective that can definitely challenge your paradigm. And that's one thing I've always encouraged is speak your mind. Let me know when I'm wrong. Some people did it a lot, and it told me I was wrong a lot, which is good. But I was actually right 99% of the time, of course, but I let them think they're right more. But no, that's encouraged. And unfortunately, you've got a lot of leaders in place these days that you see that may not be as open, not just in companies, but in life in general. So it's good to be challenged, and you want those kind of people. You want to surround yourself with those kind of people that can challenge your thinking and make sure that you come up with the best solution. So being part of that, of whether it's a board or whether it's being an advisor for directly for some of the executive teams, helps that breadth of perspective and keeps me current. what's going on in the technology world and really in all the different supply chain aspects that are out there.
That's awesome. So I heard words like energy and passion. I'm going to summarize a little bit, but being part of an executive advisor, you get iron sharpens iron. We all know that, but you get energy, you get passion, you get to bring your expertise, you get to see and kind of ground others out and just share and get along and just educate. And that's all the things that why we had a board. I don't know that there's a lot of companies, certainly the size we started at, Jordan, that had the firepower in the room of the 7 people that we brought in and just are extremely grateful for to listen to us. You think you're smart, you think you have a lot of good ideas, what's tried and true, but to get in a room and spend that 2 hours, and that's all it really is you spend 2 hours in a room together just conversating, and you feel the passion and the energy that comes out, and it's a renewable energy. So it keeps you going, but you spend a couple weeks or a month before getting prepped for the meeting. And I think there's as much value in that, but we've been extremely grateful. I think we've shared this with you, Q, but you do it for other organizations besides Zion, but that's what we like about it. You get in the room and hopefully, it's not all business. You're sharing ideas and energy. And sometimes you just need encouragement. You need a little bit of inspiration. You never know where that comes from. And you got to work. It's overused, but you got to work on your business. You can't always be in the business, especially like we are, Jordan. We're in the business every day, all up to our neck, eyeballs in the business every day. And so it's good to just pause and hear a fresh perspective. And that's what somebody like you've brought to us, Q. So we thank you for that. Well, let's wrap. We're getting closer to the end. I got
one thing to just remind me. Yeah. So sometimes in when you're advising and when folks are knee deep in business, they can lose some of the perspective. Like the book you introduced me to, The Carpenter, right?
Yeah.
Got to keep, you just got to keep going, keep focused and knowing what that, what's there at the end, and the end, will happen. You will get to where you want to get to if you stick to the values and the culture that we described earlier. And one thing that early in my career in supply chain, the late Brad Mitchell was great about. Yeah,
great guy.
Just
Brad
best
was
leader that I ever had.
Yeah.
He mentioned the bricklayer story, and it's been told in different versions, different fables, but it's a visual perspective that I like to remind myself and others from time to time. The story where there's 3 people that are laying bricks, and the first one you come up to, you ask, "Hey, what are you doing?" And they said, "Well, I'm laying bricks. I take the mortar and put it on, and I slap the brick on, and then I go to the next one." Ask the second one, "Hey, well, what are you doing?" "I'm building a wall. I want to get it 10 feet high, and we're going 100 yards long, whatever it may be." And so, "What are you building?" "Well, I'm building a wall." And then goes to the third one and say, "Hey, what are you doing?" And they say, "Well, I'm part of the team that's building this wonderful cathedral where people are going to come and gather. The partnership, the fellowship, and the introduction of this wonderful building to the community will mean so much." So just the different perspective you can have from just laying bricks to building a wall to building a wonderful cathedral, people have to keep in mind. I know you guys are building a phenomenal cathedral there at Zion, and working with those organizations like that is where you find the rewards. But Brad was great about those kind of stories and helping us keep things in perspective. And folks that were all part of his team, are some of the closest friends and coworkers that I've had.
Brad left us way too early, but he Of course, we were in different places. You got to be part of Brad's staff. And Jordan, you probably hadn't heard me talk about Brad Mitchell, but he came in and it was just a phenomenal leader and always had great stories. Just a lot of things out of the Carpenter book. When you look at the Carpenter book and you look at our mission statement, Jordan, is like to build up others, to inspire, to encourage, to serve. I think is a big part. And so, again, you never know what ripples you make in life. You never know what threads pull through. And I don't know what better way to end this podcast than to say on that story that you just did. And it feels like I was going to ask you what's next for Leverage, but you're going to keep finding companies to help build cathedrals. You're going to find
Absolutely.
people that are looking to build cathedrals. And certainly here at Zion, we're hopeful that we continue building what we consider our cathedral and have a lot of people that help along that way. And what better way to go into Thanksgiving week than just be a little grateful for the people in your life. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for serving on our board. Grateful to have you as a friend and as a business friend and as an executive advisor. So thank you for the podcast. And anybody that's out there, if you don't know where to find the podcast, if you've made it this long, we're on all the normal channels. But this is TZE episode 15, and we've had David Quintilio drop some knowledge on us, and I think this is Boots saying we're done. We've had a good podcast.
Appreciate it, Jimmy Boots, Jordan.
Yep.
You guys are awesome, and thanks for having me on.
Yeah, appreciate you.
Thanks.